A very good evening, and welcome to our today's episode 5 in the series called Throwback Thursday, where I come up with previous year questions of various subjects so that you get an insight on what are the important topics on which you get questions frequently. So, in our today's episode, we would be seeing the PYQs, that is previous year questions of ENT. Since it is just 30-minute session, so of course we cannot cover all the MCQs. We'll try and cover as much as possible the important ones that are asked frequently, right? Yes, happy evening, Vinay, Dr. Chandraprabha. I'm glad that all of you have also learned saying happy evening now. Even I learned it recently from someone, and it really sounds good to say happy evening rather than good evening, right? So Swagata, don't worry. I mean, if you're not able to complete the daily targets, it's absolutely okay. Just that at the end of the day, you should be satisfied that you have given your 100%. If you ask yourself that at the end of the day and the answer is yes, then be happy about that. Give in your best, whatever you can, and you'll get time, later on also to complete your incomplete targets of the day. So worry not, just give in your 100% and leave the rest to him. All right, Swagata? Yes. So, yes, good evening everyone. Let's quickly jump to our MCQ discussion. As I said, the time is limited, just 30 minutes. So, the first question is pulsatile tinnitus is seen in. I have tried and grouped the MCQs, the confusing MCQs together. This is your first MCQ, pulsatile tinnitus is seen in. Absolutely right, all of you are very correct. It is your glomus jugulare tumor. It is your glomus jugulare tumor. I'm sure all of you know this, that pulsatile tinnitus is seen in glomus jugulare tumor, because when you hear the term pulsatile, the first thing that comes to our mind is something which is vessel. And your glomus tumors, they are highly vascular tumors, right? They are highly vascular tumors. Okay, so that is why they have pulsatile tinnitus. I'm just telling you in this session, or like any session, I will tell you the cheat codes, how can you solve the questions easily. So pulsatile means something related to vessel, and out of all the four options that you see, CSOM, ASOM, mastoiditis, glomus jugulare tumor, so glomus jugulare is a highly vascular tumor, so that is why it presents with pulsatile tinnitus. Can someone tell me what is the sign radiologically on MRI which is seen in glomus tumors? What sign is seen on MRI in glomus tumors? Yes, anyone? No, I am asking on MRI. What is the sign on MRI that we see in glomus tumors? Glomus tumors, or basically even paraganglioma, right? Paraganglioma, or even your carotid body tumors. Now, since these are highly vascular tumors, remember that radiologically you can remember on MRI the sign that we see is salt and pepper appearance. Okay, we see salt and pepper appearance because of the prominent vessels, and the blood flow. Salt and pepper sign is seen. All right, so remember that is salt and pepper sign. Yes, Vijay Kumar, the clue was it's a highly vascular tumors. On MRI they show salt and pepper appearance. There's a video already on my YouTube channel, you can go back and check there, right? Now coming to the next question, I said I have put your confusing questions together. Lighthouse sign is seen in. Now lighthouse sign, what is lighthouse sign is, this is your pulsatile ear discharge. This is your pulsatile ear discharge. Please do not confuse it with your pulsatile tinnitus. Alright, pulsatile ear discharge through a tiny perforation in the tympanic membrane. Where do you see this? Lighthouse sign. I have told you it is pulsatile ear discharge, okay? Very good, Vijay Kumar, absolutely right, yes. So the answer here is mastoiditis. So as I said, do not confuse it with pulsatile tinnitus. Pulsatile tinnitus is seen in your glomus tumor. But pulsatile ear discharge, since it is ear discharge, it would be seen in your conditions related to mastoiditis. So it is seen in mastoiditis. So what happens if this is the ear here you have the mastoid. If there's mastoiditis, that acts as the reserve of the pus or the discharge, and it comes through the perforation, the tiny perforation in tympanic membrane. So it is seen in mastoiditis, that is called as lighthouse sign. Similarly, what is the sign that we see in glomus tumor? What sign is seen in glomus tumor? Where you increase the pressure in the external ear. First the glomus will pulsatile very fast and then it will show blanching. What sign is it called as? Very good, Sajna Yazeen, very good. It is called as Brown sign or pulsating sign, pulsation sign. So remember, if the question is Brown sign, it is seen in glomus tumor. Lighthouse sign is mastoiditis, and you had your this thing, pulsatile tinnitus, is glomus tumor. All right. Coming to the next question, again a question where you can easily use a cheat code to solve this question, even if you have not read about it. Differential diagnosis of Meniere's disease includes all except options: vestibular neuronitis, labyrinthitis, CSOM, perilymph fistula. What do you think is the answer to this? Absolutely right, all of you are correct. It is CSOM. Now you can look at the options. This is one of the cheat codes to be used. Find the odd man out in all the options given. Which one is odd man out? So your three options are going in one category and one is going in the other category. So you can see that vestibular neuronitis, labyrinthitis, perilymph fistula, all of these are somewhere related to your labyrinthine apparatus, which will cause vertigo, right? CSOM is one which is related to not your inner ear, but your middle ear, external ear, right? So this is basically related to your middle ear. Rest of them are associated with your inner ear pathologies, that is the labyrinthine pathologies. And by using that cheat code, you can mark the answer as CSOM, right? Can someone tell me what is the triad of Meniere's disease? What is the triad of Meniere's disease? Absolutely right, Harshita. That is what I was looking for. Please remember it by your mnemonic, that is TVS. Okay, TVS, that is tinnitus, vertigo, and S stands for sensory neural hearing loss. Okay, there's no conductive neural hearing loss. There's sensory neural hearing loss. So that is tinnitus, vertigo, and SNHL. TVS is the triad of Meniere's disease. TVS, right? Next question. So this was the question asked in one of the recent AIIMS exam. All the questions which I have put are your previous year questions asked sometime in AIIMS or NEET or some other exam, right? Read the question and tell me what do you think is the answer to this. I can say someone answering B, C, A. At least I am glad that none of you are marking D as the answer. You are ruling out one option at least, but I can see there are mixed answers regarding the rest of the options. Now again a cheat code which I always mention in your lengthy questions, right? In your lengthy questions, always start reading the question from the last line. What is the location of the artery attributing to this bleed? Okay, that gives you an insight into what you have to actually look for while reading the question. Okay, so now the question is, there is a diagnosis of posterior epistaxis. Then you read the last second line, secondary to hypertension. What is the location of artery? So we know that posterior epistaxis, what is the artery which is responsible? Posterior epistaxis, what is the artery responsible? It's your sphenopalatine artery. It's your sphenopalatine artery. Remember that the most common artery responsible for epistaxis, both anterior and posterior, is your sphenopalatine artery. And this sphenopalatine artery is situated at the posterior end of middle turbinate. It is situated at the posterior end of middle turbinate, and that is why your answer is this. If they ask next time, there was a question previously asked also on sphenopalatine ganglion. Okay, Sphenopalatine ganglion, sphenopalatine artery, remember they are posterior to middle turbinate. They are at the level of middle turbinate. Alright. So how you can remember this is sphenopalatine. So palate is here, this level. So just remember it's at the level of your middle turbinate. Not inferior, not superior. Palate is in the middle of the face. So that's your middle turbinate. Right? Yes, that's your artery of epistaxis, both anterior and posterior. Related question, again this was one of the recent AIIMS exam question. Read the question and tell me what is the answer. Which of the following is not a branch of external carotid artery in Kieselbeck's plexus? Again, I can see mixed answers here. Some of you answering it as A, some of you answering it as B. The majority of you are answering it as A, and the correct answer is option A. Remember that for people who are going to attempt for AIIMS, this AIIMS exam, your epistaxis, Kieselbeck's plexus is a favorite topic for AIIMS examiners. There's frequently a question, either image based or theoretical question. Something related to that is frequently asked. So please master this topic for your exam. Now, Kieselbeck's plexus, which is not a branch of external carotid, is your anterior and posterior ethmoidal. Why? Because anterior and posterior ethmoidal, these are branches of which artery? Anterior and posterior ethmoidal are branches of which artery? They are not the direct branches of internal carotid artery. They are not the direct branches of internal carotid artery. There is some branch which comes from internal carotid artery and then it gives your anterior and posterior ethmoidal. Which branch is that? Absolutely right. It's your ophthalmic artery. It's your ophthalmic artery. Trust me, anatomy is something which is very easy. You do not need to mug it up. Now it's easy that your ethmoid is here, right? The ethmoid air cells are situated here. So this is close to the orbit. So that is why they are branches of the ophthalmic artery. And this ophthalmic artery is in turn a branch of internal carotid artery. We know that internal carotid artery supplies the brain. That forms the anterior circulation supplying the brain. So remember, your brain plus eyes, they are supplied by internal carotid artery. Rest of your face here is supplied by external carotid artery. Is that clear? So easy to remember, brain and eye is your anterior circulation ICA. What are the terminal branches of ICA which supply the brain? What are the terminal branches of ICA? That's your ACA and MCA, anterior cerebral and middle cerebral artery. What is posterior communicating artery a branch of? Posterior communicating artery is a branch of which artery? Yes. So I hope all of you know very well about the circle of Willis. Basilar artery giving posterior cerebral artery, internal carotid giving MCA, ACA, ACA, MCA, internal carotid. And then you have your posterior communicating artery which comes here. Posterior communicating artery which comes here, which joins the ICA with the PCA, right? So what is this a branch of? This is a very frequently asked question. Again, please do not make mistakes in the frequently asked questions. That means, you know, that will have a big effect on your rank. So you can see that posterior communicating joins the ICA with PCA in the circle of Willis. So either it has to be branch of ICA or it has to be branch of PCA. So your PCOM is actually a branch of ICA. It comes from ICA and goes to PCA. Please remember that. It's a branch of ICA, not a branch of basilar artery. Your posterior cerebral artery is a branch of basilar artery, not the PCOM. Can someone tell me what is, you have the vertebral arteries joining to form basilar artery, terminal branches PCA. Which is the second last branch of basilar artery here below the PCA? If you get an image based question, they give you this image and they ask you identify this vessel. Which vessel will be this? Very good, Dinesh, Priya, very good. That is your superior cerebellar artery. It's not your ICA, anterior inferior. You can see that this is the inferior part of basilar, this is the superior part of basilar. So that will be your superior cerebellar artery. Your ICA will come below in the inferior part. ICA is a branch of basilar artery, and PICA, that is posterior inferior cerebellar artery, is a branch of vertebral artery. Okay guys, please make such schematic diagrams for anatomy. It becomes really easy to revise. Otherwise, if you just have theoretical notes, you will not be able to revise it and retain it for a longer time. All right, so let's go back to our question. Yes, so let me show you this image. So in the blood supply of nasal septum, you have these branches coming from both external carotid artery and internal carotid artery. Maximum is from your external carotid artery. You can see here that gives the facial artery. We know facial artery is a branch of external carotid. That gives your superior labial artery, and that gives the septal branch. So this is your superior labial artery ka septal branch coming here. The other branch of external carotid is your maxillary artery, one of the terminal branches. That gives your sphenopalatine artery. This is what you can see here is your sphenopalatine artery coming from here. Then maxillary also gives greater palatine artery. So coming from the palate, you can see this is the palate, greater palatine artery. So all these three you can see are branches of external carotid artery, right? You can see that. Now internal carotid artery, we said it gives ophthalmic artery, brain and eye, and that gives the ethmoidal artery, both anterior and posterior. You can see anterior ethmoidal, posterior ethmoidal, right? So this is what is forming your Kieselbeck's plexus here. Another question asked previously that Kieselbeck's plexus is present in which part? Antero-inferior, antero-superior, posterior-inferior, posterior-superior. You can see it is located here anteriorly and inferiorly. So it is present in the antero-inferior part of the nasal septum, right? And also you can see that your posterior ethmoidal is not coming here into your Kieselbeck's plexus, right? So in Kieselbeck's you have your arteries here. Let me clear this. Right, so in Kieselbeck's plexus you have your superior labial artery coming there. You have your greater palatine artery, sphenopalatine artery, anterior ethmoidal artery. Out of that you can see sphenopalatine comes from back, goes to the front. So it is the most common cause of both anterior and posterior epistaxis. Alright, is that clear? Yes, let's go to the next question quickly. Again I have, this is your previous question in one of the AIIMS exam. So I have clubbed it with questions on epistaxis. Which of the following is not ligated for the control of epistaxis? Internal carotid artery, anterior ethmoidal artery, maxillary artery, or external carotid artery? What do you think is the answer to this? Again, this is a question where you can use a cheat code and aram se you can get this question right. There's nothing much to think about in this question. Very logical question. Yes, so majority of you are right. Alright, the answer is internal carotid artery. Now we saw that epistaxis में anterior ethmoidal artery भी आता है, maxillary artery के branches आते हैं, external carotid artery भी आता है, internal carotid के भी branches आते हैं. So we will not ligate internal carotid artery for the very logical reason that it supplies the brain. You cannot ligate an artery which is giving the blood supply to the brain. Alright, because that can have high mortality chances and very high complications. So this was a very logical question. Please use these cheat codes, logical guessing. There's nothing much great in this question. Just that it needs some amount of calm and your brain's working at the same time. So you will not ligate the internal carotid artery ever, right? Based on the same lines, I ask this question frequently in radiology as well, that when you do cerebral angiography, right? When you do cerebral angiography, we do via arterial route. That's your catheter angiography or DSA. What is the most common route or the artery which is used for cerebral angiography? Is it your internal carotid artery, brachial artery, femoral artery, or is it your abdominal aorta? Yes? Correct. The answer is femoral artery. I have mentioned this before as well, that for any angiography we prefer using femoral artery first because it's a larger caliber, so easy to cannulate. Then since it is lying against a bone, so even if the artery bleeds, you can compress it against the head of the femur, so it's easy to have hemostasis. So even if you are doing cerebral angiography, do it from the femoral root. Alright, there are catheters which will go till there and the arch of the aorta, and then puts the dye in the carotid. So remember that cerebral angiography, again this is your previous year question asked previously, that for cerebral angiography we do via femoral artery, not the internal carotid artery. You will never puncture or ligate internal carotid artery. It would be like the last investigation or the last treatment for the patient. Alright, so never do that. Next question. This is your next set of 2 questions, confusing questions, terms together. Harshita, radial artery generally we do not use, but yes, we can do radial artery. For coronary angiographies, we can cannulate the radial artery. But otherwise, for rest of that of the body, be it your abdominal angiography, cerebral angiography, whatever angiography, we prefer doing femoral route. Yes, what is the answer to this? Absolutely right. It is your subglottic stenosis. So remember that Mayer-Cotton's grading is used for subglottic stenosis. Also remember, we had seen in one of our episodes of Throwback Thursday, Cotton's fracture. What is Cotton's fracture? What is Cotton's fracture? Yes, anyone? Very good. That's your trimalleolar fracture. Lower limb fracture, trimalleolar fracture. We had seen the trick also to remember it is Cotton's is third alphabet. So it's your trimalleolar. What is the bimalleolar fracture called as? What is the bimalleolar fracture called as? Yes, the bimalleolar fracture is called as Pott's fracture. So, to remember your grading as well, remember that Cotton's grading, Mayer-Cotton's grading is for your subglottic stenosis. Again, double T, right? So that is used, Mayer-Cotton's is used for subglottic stenosis. Rest of the options which you see, none of them have double T in their spelling like your Cotton's grading. Alright? So remember that Cotton's grading, Mayer-Cotton's grading is for subglottic stenosis. What is this? What test are we performing here? Very good, Sana. Yes, that's your very good, Sana, Sanika. We have confusing names also here in the viewers. So that is your Cotton's test. Why did I put it here? To differentiate it from your Cotton's grading. Okay. So this is your Cotton's test. Very easy test. You just pull this cheeks, and if the this improves, the breathing improves, the respiration improves, then yes, absolutely right. So that means your nasal valve, there's a problem with the nasal valve. It's done for nasal valve patency. Okay. So, but before doing which surgery do we use this Cotton's test? Before doing surgery, for which condition is this Cotton's test performed? Absolutely right, for DNS. So if the Cotton's test is positive, that means that the patient will improve after surgery. Okay. The obstruction will be relieved after surgery. So that is why we take the patient for surgery. Alright. So please remember that Cotton's test is done for DNS. Cotton's test is done for DNS. Again, a previously asked question. Coming to the next question. Logical question. Type of speech seen in nasopharyngeal carcinoma. Type of speech which is seen in nasopharyngeal carcinoma. Okay, I can see all of you are right except 1 or 2 of you. It's absolutely right. Rhinolalia clausa. I love this topic of Rhinolalia clausa and aperta because, you get too many questions of them, but it's an easy topic. So, Rhinolalia clausa and aperta. So, you can see it is Rhinolalia clausa and aperta. So clausa means something is closing. Aparta, like your aperture, there is an opening. So something is opening up. So rhino means it is nose. Lalia, you can you can correlate it to labia or your the oral cavity. So rhino clausa, that means something is closing the nose or the oral cavity, and aparta means something is opening it up. So what happens in your nasopharyngeal carcinoma? Nasopharyngeal carcinoma, we know it will cause nasal obstruction. It will cause nasal obstruction. That means it is closing. So that is why the speech is rhinolalia clausa. Rhinolalia aparta would be seen when I said there is some opening anywhere. So maybe cleft lip, cleft palate, or your velopharyngeal insufficiency. Velopharyngeal insufficiency, basically any problem in the lips opening or palate or in the pharynx. If something is opened up, it is lax, then it will cause your rhinolalia aparta. Is that clear? Yes. So actually this is a very easy topic. So rhinolalia clausa, nasopharyngeal carcinoma. Where do you see this hot potato voice? Where do you see hot potato voice? Yes, absolutely right, Avatar Ganga. That is seen in quinsy. That is peritonsillar abscess. Hot potato voice is seen in quinsy. So you can remember it as hot means there's something which is inflammation going on. Hot is inflammation. And potato means your abscess which is there, the peritonsillar abscess. So you can remember it like that. Hot potato is your peritonsillar abscess. Absolutely right. Coming to the next question, again a very logical question. All of the following cause gray-white membrane over tonsils except. What do you think is the answer to this? I know when we get such questions in the exam hall, the first thing is we start panicking looking at the options. But actually, if you maintain your calm, it's a very, very easy question. White tonsil, white membrane over the tonsils, where you have streptococcal tonsillitis, diphtheria, infectious mononucleosis, Ludwig's angina. Yes, absolutely right. The answer is Ludwig's angina. If you know the definition of Ludwig's angina involves which space? It is infection or inflammation involving which space? Is it parapharyngeal space? Is it peritonsillar space? Is it retropharyngeal space? What space is involved? Yes, very good, Dr. Monica. It is in the floor of mouth. Which space is it? It is your submandibular space. It is your infection or inflammation in the submandibular space. Please remember, you can get a question on this also. So it's an external thing. So this is how your Ludwig's angina is. You can get an image-based question. You will see swelling and redness in the submandibular space. So obviously it is not involving the tonsils. So there will be no white membrane. That is why the answer is Ludwig's angina. So when you know Ludwig's angina is the answer, you need not worry about the rest of the three options. Ki infectious mononucleosis, does it cause, does not cause. I am least bothered. I know that Ludwig's angina does not cause. So that's your another cheat code. If you are sure of the answer, do not worry about the rest of the three options. That makes things easy for you, right? Next question. This is a very, very favorite topic in both AIIMS and NEET PG. Very, very favorite. I've seen 4 to 5 questions being asked on the same test. Jelly's test is negative in. Yes, Jelly's test is negative in. Absolutely right. You guys are absolutely very well read. So the answer is otosclerosis. It's otosclerosis. So I'll tell you the cheat code to remember this. Now what is Jelly's test and why is it negative? Now normal is Jelly's test positive. Abnormal is Jelly's test negative. Okay. So in normal people you will see positive Jelly's test. So what do we see here is Jelly's test. What we do is when we increase the pressure in the external auditory canal by a speculum, and that is why it will create pressure on your ossicular chain. So the stapes will be pushed medially. So the stapes will not contract and there will be no sound transmission. this is your normal in positive and normal individuals, and even in SNHL. But abnormal is, when will it be abnormal? When your stapes is fixed, and your stapes is fixed in otosclerosis. The term itself says otosclerosis. So stapes is fixed in otosclerosis. That is why the Jelly's test is negative. Alright. So remember that the cheat code to remember this is, Jelly's is like your Fevicol gel. Okay. It's like your Fevicol gel. So like a Fevicol gel, stapes is fixed. It is not moving. Okay. So that is why that Jelly's test will be negative. So very easy to remember, gel, Fevicol gel ke jaise, stapes is fixed. So Jelly's test is negative in otosclerosis. Absolutely right. Yes, very correct, Swagata, and someone else had also mentioned, you all have learned the cheat codes to solve the questions. The other way is, look at the options. Acoustic neuroma will cause SNHL. Presbycusis, SNHL. Meniere's disease, SNHL. It is only otosclerosis which is causing your conductive hearing loss. So you can see three options going in one side. The odd man out is your otosclerosis. So the answer is otosclerosis. Alright. So that is why please remember both the ways of solving the questions. The next question, I think this would be our last question for the day. Carhart's notch typically dips at. This is a question which tells you that when you are reading, you have to be very careful of each word that you are reading. I can see there's confusion arising. Some people are saying option C, 2000 in air conduction, and some are saying 2000 in bone conduction. So there's a confusion there. At least you know that Carhart's notch is at 2000 Hertz. If you know that, you can rule out option A, you can rule out option B. Do that first. Now the confusion is air conduction or bone conduction. Remember, it is your bone conduction. The answer is D. It's not air conduction. Carhart's notch is seen in otosclerosis. That is why I have kept it with Jelly's test. So you remember that it's seen in otosclerosis. So it is a dip in bone conduction. Please remember, this is a very, very important point. It is a dip which is seen in bone conduction. Alright. Now look at this graph. This, the audiometry given here, graph A. What do you think is the diagnosis here? Look at this graph. What do you think is the diagnosis here? Yes, I'm waiting for your answers. What is the diagnosis here? Do not get biased by what we discussed just now. Very good, very good. It's your noise-induced hearing loss. It's your noise-induced hearing loss. Why? Because the dip that you see here in this image, the dip that you see here, this is the dip which you see. This is not at 2000 Hertz. This dip you see is corresponding to 4000 Hertz. So in your noise-induced hearing loss, the dip is in 4000 Hertz. And it involves both air conduction and bone conduction. This is called as what notch? This is called as what notch? Anyone? Absolutely right, Deepu Rajan, that is your Boyler's notch. This is called as Boyler's notch. And if you see in this image, right, look at this image. Air conduction, bone conduction. The dip is seen in the curve of bone conduction at 2000 Hertz. So this is your Carhart's notch which is seen in otosclerosis, and that is a dip in your bone conduction at 2000 Hertz. Alright, so please see the difference, read it very carefully. This is the bone conduction dip at 2000. This is your both air and bone conduction dip at 4000 in noise-induced hearing loss. That is called as Boyler's notch. This is called as Carhart's notch. Alright. This we have already discussed. In which of the following conditions is Jelly's test negative? So your previous cheat code, like 3 options SNHL, 1 option conductive, does not work here. That is why sometimes you need to know specific answers also, because both of them, this is conductive, this is your SNHL, this is your SNHL, this is your conductive hearing loss. That is why you should know that the mnemonic Jelly's test, Fevicol gel के जैसे stapes is fixed. So that is seen in otosclerosis. But now we do not do Jelly's test. What is the test that we do now for your stapes mobility? We do tympanometry. Basically, tympanometry is done. And what is the type of curve which is seen in otosclerosis? What type of curve is seen in otosclerosis? Yes? Which curve is seen in otosclerosis in tympanometry? Absolutely right. It is your AS type of curve. Again, very easy to remember. Otosclerosis. So sclerosis will cause AS type of curve. So remember, S is for sclerosis. S is for sclerosis. Where do you see AD type of curve? AD curve is seen in? Where is AD? AD type of curve seen in? Again, D stands for discontinuity. So that is seen in your ossicular discontinuity. So they can give you a question that a patient after road traffic accident comes with hearing loss. There is no fracture in the temporal bone or anything. Then what is the diagnosis? It's basically, it could be your ossicular discontinuity, ossicular discontinuation, dislocation. And the type of curve that you will see in tympanometry is your AD type of curve. If they tell you that a pregnant patient comes with, loss of hearing, remember that it is otosclerosis. They will ask you in AIIMS, it is asked frequently. So otosclerosis aggravates in pregnancy. So you will see AS type of curve. Road traffic accident, hearing loss, you will see AD type of curve. These are the clinical applications, clinical questions which are asked in your AIIMS exam. All right. Yes. So I think that's all for today. It was just a half an hour session. I hope you all have enjoyed this session. We really don't, realize when the time flies when we are discussing these questions and having this live interactive sessions. Yes, so I hope you have enjoyed this session. You have learned out of this session some strategies to score more in your exam and do a smart study while you are doing. Please keep revising these sessions, integrate them with your notes, and yes, that's it. I'll see you. My next session is there on 10th on Unacademy app, learning app. I hope all of you are there. So I'll see you on 10th. And then we have the central exam revision course for AIIMS as well. I'll be taking radiology from 11th to 15th of June in the central revision course. So which will be targeted at your AIIMS pattern questions and the concepts which are asked in AIIMS regarding radiology. All right. So that's all for today. Thank you guys. Keep